Hello, my name is Sebastien. I'm a solution architect at IP Fabric. And today we're going to discuss the use case that we hear quite often about merge and acquisition and the challenges that we have with it and how IP Fabric can help you with that specific use case. To start, what are the main challenges with the merge and acquisition? So we all know that it's generally a very large project that might spread over several months, and there is a lot of risk involved, a lot of eyes looking at that project, and you want to make sure that everything is going to go as smoothly as possible. So what are the main risks that we see with the merge and acquisition? The first one is the fact that you don't know what you're about to acquire, what their network looks like. And this is the main unknown, so the big unknown. Traditionally, what happens in that situation is network engineers are going to spend a lot of time and resources into understanding that network so that once you've got that understanding, you can then onboard that network, be able to merge it into the existing infrastructure. But to do that part, like I said, is a very intensive process where you're going to have to rely on data that the other side may not have at all. Do they have documentation? Is that documentation up to date? And all those are questions that are going to be worked by your team to extract that data so that you have the better understanding. Without this data, you're in a big blurry situation and you're just going to find out issues as you are in the middle of the project and then starting to realize, oh, there is some specific things that have been configured. We cannot just do a simple acquisition. We can just simply migrate that network into ours. There's going to be challenges with it. So ideally, you want to have all that before starting the project, but you can't because at that time you don't have access to those devices or you don't have the documentation that you require to perform this operation. So today, what we're going to display is the how do you do that with IP Fabric? How can we help to get instant value from the discovery that IP Fabric is going to perform, so that you can be a lot more efficient when looking at that project. The the first one, so if we start looking at the demo, once IP Fabric has performed the initial discovery, so for that, you still need, as you would do if you are going to do it manually, you need to have access to those devices and be able to log in, even if it's just read-only, but just so that you can extract the information. Once you've completed the snapshot, you would have first the inventory of all your devices, for example. Might not sound like a lot, but it's already data that you may struggle to get in an efficient manner. Now, you've got device inventory, you can get a list of what are the OS that are running on them, some useful information already just based on this. But it's also a lot more data that we have where maybe one of the use case that you want to validate during that merge and acquisition is, have I got a serial number for all those devices, ensuring that everything is correctly maintained and supported? Actually, you can also check at the end of life milestone, is there any hardware with that network which are no longer supported? In which case, you want to make sure that you're going to account, like to take into account into the renewal of the maintenance, so that maybe you just need to get new hardware for those. So in this table, you really have all the serial number that IP Fabric has discovered within the infrastructure that was in this discovered in that snapshot. So all serial numbers are now available in this table, so you can easily do your due diligence and make sure that you've got the maintenance uh, as expected in that situation. So right now we've only looked at very basic table that is showing us the inventory of like devices, what you have in that snapshot. But you may have a lot more questions. Maybe from an inventory perspective, you want to look at something that's going to be a lot more network related, where someone may ask a simple question as, what are the VLAN that are configured on some devices? In that table, I can see all the switching or router or devices where which VLANs are configured. If I want to see, for example, which are the devices where I can find that specific VLAN, I've got a simple access to that information. And you've got to take into account that this is not just for one device or one type of vendors, it's for the whole infrastructure that you're about to acquire. So now I can quickly have that good understanding of, okay, now I see every VLAN 334 that are present in that snapshot. But obviously, there are a lot more technology tables that you may want to use information from to have that better understanding. So, for example, I've looked at the VLAN, but you can want to have the same use case for the VRF. What are the VRF configured on specific devices, just to have that better understanding. And up until now, we've only looked at a table perspective. So this is the data and the information based on the data representing the network we're about to acquire. Maybe you want to do something that's going to talk to a lot more people just by having visual representation of that information. And this is where we can look at the diagram that has been built based on the data discovered. So if I open one of the topology in here, now what you have in here is the topology that has been built based on that data. So you no longer have to manually connect to all those devices and by hand yourself starting to draw and confirm that all the visual diagram that the client would have provided to say this is how that site has been built. You can actually have something that's going to do that for you automatically. And it's going to, after each new discovery, make sure that you can validate that this is how it was meant to be built. So right now, if something changed in this particular site, for example, on those devices, the next discovery I will run will reflect those changes. So now I'm no longer having to rely on the manual input to update a visual diagram, but I can actually see directly how things are represented. So you've got a lot more chances to have an accurate data rather than looking at the outdated visual diagram that the team may have provided to yours when at the beginning of the project. Okay, so we've looked at the inventory tables that you have within the snapshot. You've looked at how the topology is going to help because it's now representing in a visual way how the network has been built. So all this is going to be helping you in terms of controlling how the project is going to be planned. Some merge and acquisition, we had customers, for example, where they planned for a number of years for the merge to happen. They were able to accelerate the whole project just because they had the right data to have the full understanding of what they were about to acquire. So if I summarize quickly, what we've seen is with IP Fabric, you'll be able to have that visibility of that network in minutes rather than having to wait weeks or months to extract this information from potentially non-existent documentation, which this will help you to control cost, avoid having delays because you can't complete the project in time due to the lack of information. Also, having that data means that you have the full understanding, for example, what are the public IPv4 that are available in that network. Maybe you want just to check everything, so it can be whether it's from a cost perspective, from a security perspective, just having that better understanding again of the infrastructure. There is also the aspect from a compliance. Now you know how things have been built. It's a lot easier to plan what changes need to be performed in the future to make sure that that network you're about to ingest is compliant with the rules that you have in place with yours. So as you can see, IP Fabric is going to be the right tool to help with merge and acquisition project. And if you need any further information, feel free to get in touch with us.